Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Business Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Jess Cassity, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Haley Rowe, and we're going to be talking all about client attraction without getting overwhelmed on social media, and also how to increase your sales and what that looks like. So let's get right into it. Hey Haley, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. And I know so many women entrepreneurs benefit from your show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that they're going to take away a lot of information today once we dive into everything. So, before we get all into all the awesome nitty-gritty stuff that everybody really wants to hear, can you tell everybody a little bit about you, your background, and how you got to where you are?
Yeah. So I had an interest in personal development at a pretty young age. I was an old soul. And so I ended up getting some coaching certifications before coaching was very cool. This was around like 2010, 2012. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with all that, but I knew I wanted to do something in entrepreneurship. So I ended up getting my bachelor's in entrepreneurship at college. And then I started to work in business development and marketing for startups after college. And it was kind of like a crash course in just needing to figure things out before you felt ready or qualified.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a great experience for me because I got to see behind the scenes of these startups that were super fast paced and realize they did not have it all figured out, even though I thought in order for me to be an entrepreneur, I got to be
Yeah.
ready. I got to have it all figured out. I got to have more experience.
Yeah.
And the truth is, they are all figuring it out as they go. And I ended up in 2017, I kept putting off my own business or doing it behind the scenes or doing it a little bit here and there. And in 2017, I ended up kind of getting my calling, my warning sign that it was time to go all in on my business because one of the companies that I worked for had to let everybody go in one day because it was a company that had to get some approvals before they could launch and it was delaying it and blah, blah, blah. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to just work with individual business owners in business development and marketing and help them with that because I know that's a big challenge for a lot of people who have a craft or a service or something they love to do, but then they realize they have to also become an entrepreneur. And so that is what I did. And I started my Health Coach Nation podcast and worked with a lot of coaches starting out. And now I work with coaches and service providers. And it's been a blast. It's definitely been a up and down journey, of course, but that's how I got into it.
Oh, what a great story. And I love the fact that you're like, everybody is just kind of figuring it out along the way. And I think that that's one of the big things that, especially solopreneurs, like they miss that because what they're seeing, especially on social media, is kind of the end or also like the great stuff that everybody shares and not necessarily all the struggles and everything going on behind the scenes of everybody figuring it out and making it work as they go, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think people think there's this big like secret they're missing out on or a magic bullet or whatever. And really there's not. It's just
Yeah.
sticking with it. So
Yeah, and they're comparing themselves, especially at the beginning, to somebody else who, is not at their beginning and hasn't, they have to go through all of that stuff because yeah, everybody is totally looking for that magic pill. I mean, everybody wants, especially in today's world, the easy way out almost. Like everybody wants instant gratification.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's super hard. So you work with a lot of business owners, coaches, and different, online providers like that as well. And I know one of the things that you talk a lot about with your clients is about like their messaging and client attraction. So can you talk a little bit about that and what you think everybody kind of struggles or what they're missing?
Definitely. So there's kind of, if we look at big picture of your business, there's about 5 parts you really need to be working on. One is lead gen, one is lead nurturing, one is lead conversion, one is client delivery, and one is retention. And a lot of people are really good at client delivery and retention, But the first three steps, the lead gen, the lead nurture, and conversion, is where they really struggle. And a lot of times I think the reason they struggle is a couple of reasons. One, they jump around from lead gen strategy to lead gen strategy without refining it, sticking with it, testing different things in one platform or one strategy. Because the truth is, any strategy, whether you're going to choose LinkedIn lead generation, which is something I love, or you're going to choose partnership, JV partnerships to grow your email list and take your webinar on the road. Any one of them can work, but where people get tripped up is they'll try it for 2 weeks or a month, and then they'll be like, oh, it's not working as fast as I want, or the message isn't landing or whatever. And then they move on to something new without improving what they already have in front of them that could work, but they just need to make a couple tweaks. So that's one thing. And then I think the other thing is they skip steps within those three categories. So I have something that I call the 4 steps of client attraction, and it's connect, which is basically being visible to your ideal clients and connecting with them. So that could be by being on podcasts. It could be by, doing a live or whatever. Engaging, which means we have to find out what actually is useful to your audience. So a big challenge I see is a lot of people are guessing what their audience wants and needs from them, or communicating what they really want to provide to their audience and just something they like, instead of what their audience is actually saying, right? So we have to find out what's really useful to them. And then we have to do what I call make a pre-offer. That's step 3. And then the sales phase comes after that, where you invite them to your sales process. And what a pre-offer is basically giving someone a quick win or a result up front that allows you to more naturally transition to the sales phase. So again, another mistake I see is people jump from, well, do you want to just, hop on a sales call or, join my program, without having that third step in there that's really meaningful and builds trust and helps you be memorable and stand out because you've already given somebody a win up front. So I think those are some of the most common things that I see.
Yeah, definitely. And, you mentioned about, people not giving the strategy enough time. And I think that, really resonates with, what we just said before that about everybody wanting instant gratification and skipping those steps, like you said too. Like they don't give anything enough time to work or, adjust it. They're just like, oh, this sucks, and move on.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this philosophy, but I love Alex Hormozy talks about more, better, new, meaning like most people just keep jumping to the new shiny object or the new thing, but really first look at a strategy that's indicated it could work or has maybe generated some interest, and do more of it. How can you do it better? How can you make it scalable? How can you keep doing it on repeat or at a higher volume? And then you can add something new. So I'm not saying that you can never add new strategies or new social media platforms or whatever, but I think so many people miss out on so many opportunities because they're so distracted that they never get to that point where it's smooth and it's working for them.
Yeah, and that shiny object syndrome is so real. That's one of the things that I hear a lot of people, mentioning, and especially like following other gurus or anything. Like their head is almost like just full and they don't know what to focus on and everything. And I think that that's why it's important to have, your own business coach or, mentor, advisor to help you kind of turn that noise off, right?
Yeah. And I think it's important to set some standards for yourself. Like, for the next 3 months, I'm just going to listen to these 3 podcasts or these 2 podcasts or whatever. Or for the next month, my main focus is my membership launch and working backwards. Here's what that looks like or whatever. So I think you're right to say that we almost have to set standards for what we're not going to do. In addition to a to-do list, you also want to have like here's what I'm not going to do right now, or I'm going to park this idea for the future.
Yeah, it's almost like setting boundaries for your business in each like category and stuff, so that you're not getting caught up and being pulled in all the different directions, which kind of brings me to, you talk a lot about, these steps for client attraction without the social media overwhelm. So how does that, tie in there? Like, obviously, people are getting really overwhelmed on social media because they're going in multiple different directions as well. But what do you, recommend, and what are your suggestions about that?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing with social media is to remember that no matter what platform you're picking or which algorithm you're working with, you the timeless principles of sales and marketing are still going to apply to every platform. Now, there are ways on each platform to optimize content that are different from platform to platform. Like TikTok, you're not going to do a long written caption and it's going to go really well. It's all about the short attention span and, starting your video with a hook and talking really fast and all the things. But my point is, I think we should put more emphasis on picking a platform we can stick with and focusing on the timeless principles of sales and marketing and connecting with our audience on a personal level, meaning, rather than just posting and hoping people comment, actually like saying to your followers, thank you for following me. I appreciate it. What kind of content do you want to see? I'm taking requests for a live this Thursday, or I have a free, gift for my followers. It's the blah, blah, blah guide. Would it make sense to share it? Like, I think that's more of a way to get out of the overwhelm of I have to post all the time and my posts aren't getting any engagement. So I'm going to get all worked up about the algorithm and blah, blah, blah. I think you should be consistent on social media just to be there so that people can see you exist, see you've given some value, etc. But I don't think that should be the main focus. And I don't think that that's also going to be the main way you get clients. I think it's going to be more so following those 4 steps of client attraction that we talked about. And that can be communicated through your posts, meaning you can engage with your audience by asking what would be useful for them in your Instagram stories or in a poll or something like that. Or, you can promote your pre-offer in your posts, which is your freebie and whatnot. But I think it's more so making people feel like they're not just a number and making sure that you are not thinking you just have to post all the time and get stuck in the busy work of that. That to me is less productive than, for example, using my time on social media to connect with potential partners to be on their podcast or, welcoming my followers when they follow me, like things like that.
Yeah, I love that. And that makes so much sense too, because, that's, where the overwhelm comes from. And basically, people bring it on themselves in a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And setting up, boundaries, based upon your tasks and what you're doing, I think are a really big key to that as well. Because if you've set specific times, like you said, to, be on a social media platform to network or build relationships and provide value, like that's what you should be doing. And you have to be very strategic not to fall down the rabbit hole of watching a bunch of videos or, other things that get, taken away from your meaning of being there. And then that causes overwhelm because you didn't do the stuff you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, right.
So, talking about, attracting your ideal clients and everything, I think that, people have really been working on creating their message. And, that's, something that's very popular out there now is creating that message to attract their ideal client or their ideal avatar. How does somebody transition from attracting the right people to sales? I think that people really, really struggle with, posting the content, creating the value, providing value, or even providing lead magnets, and then actually making money. Like it's a big gap there.
Definitely. So that transition from giving a pre-offer to going into the sales process is very, like, I agree. People think it's like this very big gray area. And the truth is, there's a couple ways you can do it, but you want to make sure that the first tip is to make sure that your pre-offer or lead magnet is related to and or could tie into your bigger offer. So in other words, it's more natural to transition to the sales process if, for example, your lead let's say I'm a emotional eating coach and my freebie is a 5-minute exercise you can use at dinner tonight to prevent a binge or something. I might then say, how did the 5-minute exercise, like I might have an email sequence, right, that comes to the people after they do this freebie. where I say like, how did it go for you? And, if you have a different point of the day where you struggle, or you are looking for other strategies because it's not a one size fits all, or you did end up having a binge and you want someone to talk about it and have the emotional support to keep working through it or whatever. Would it make sense for us to hop on a free breakthrough call or something like that, where you do your discovery call, you talk through their goals, you see what they need, you maybe, provide a general roadmap so they can see what you guys can do together, and then you share your program if it makes sense, right? So I think it needs to be a transition where it's a related, right? Like it'd be weird if you had a freebie about something totally different and now you're totally changing the offer. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you want to make it an invitation. So I think a lot of people think like, okay, I'm just going to say, let me know if you want to sign up for my program. Here's the link. And they don't realize in order to go into the sales phase, you got to invite them into the whole sales process and make it a question. So I like to ask, like, would it make sense for us to do XYZ? And I also like to make sure that I don't assume that they know everything about the offer, that they even need it. So you need to then have more emails or more touch points where you're communicating, or maybe you have a webinar or something like that, where you're actually saying like, here's who this is for, here's who this is not for. Here's the benefits, here's, what we accomplished together, et cetera. So that can be very helpful, because I think a lot of people think, oh, well, it's just a free call. Like, no, but you have to sell that. Like, even free stuff, you have to sell that. And I think the other thing with the transition that can make it more natural is to use social proof. So if you said to someone, how did the freebie go? One of my clients recently used it to do X, Y, and Z. I don't know if that sounds like something you're working on, but so that can help other people see that there's others like them who have successfully conquered this issue. So those are a couple things. And then I think the other thing to keep in mind is sometimes with a sales cycle, you want to remember that some people will go through your launch once or twice, or maybe even 3 times before it finally clicks. So just know, especially if you sell something high ticket, sometimes it could be 90 days of a sales cycle before someone's like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, I'm going to book my call or whatever. So just know it's not a wasted effort if you feel like you did a webinar and, you only got a certain number of calls or whatever. Those are a couple things to keep in mind.
So I want to go back a little bit and go back to like the discovery call, strategy call, whatever you want to call it and stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about, how somebody gets someone on a call? Because I think they're also missing that gap as well. Like they go, let's say they have like a Facebook group, or they're in a Facebook group, and I see people post this all the time, like, hey, I'm offering a free, strategy call. And one of the biggest things that I hear from people are they can't even get people on that free call, like you said. Like you have to sell that call. So how do people, get over that and like sell this as an amazing thing?
Yes. So there's a couple things. One is you could decide, and probably what I'd recommend if you're a beginner is split the calls, meaning have a intro call, like give it a special name and make it a actual value-based call, not a discovery call first. So it'd be like, I'm offering 5 spots for a free social media audit this week. And that can open the door to the conversation. Then you can give value. You're giving like a pre-offer and like pre-qualifying in one call, which is helpful. So, and it can be shorter than an actual discovery call. And then that can naturally transition to like, how did this go for you? Do you have other goals with social media? Would it make sense for us to even schedule another call to talk about how we could work together? That's an option, number one. Number two could be, if you're going to just have the discovery call, make sure you're communicating what value does that give them, even if they don't enroll in your service. So they're going to probably walk away with more clarity, or like for me, I share my FAST framework on the call, and how it applies to their business, which actually gives them a great like visual concept of their business roadmap and like how we would work on it together. So whether we end up working on it together or not, they still have a clear idea of like, here are the things I probably need to be focusing on in the order that I need to be doing it. And they get some clarity no matter what, right? So communicate what are the benefits of that call, even if they don't sign up for your program, making it very clear that it doesn't obligate them to join the program, because it doesn't. And your goal for that call should be to help them come to a decision, whether it's yes or no, not just always be, oh, my goal on this call is just to get everybody to be a yes, because that's not true. That's not how it works. And then I think the other thing is make it easy for people to book it and create some urgency around it. Maybe if they schedule it now as opposed to later, they get bonuses if it's a fit, or they get a early bird discount or something. But don't just say, hey, let me know if you want to book a call, and then leave it up to the person to send you some times, and you're going back and forth, and it's this long, difficult process. Or you have a form with, especially if if you're at a point where you're booking so many calls and you need to pre-qualify better, you can have a big application form and, make that all fancy. But if you're starting out and you just want to get in the habit of getting calls and learning from your audience, don't make it so freaking hard with this long application process for someone to book a call with you.
Yeah, and I really love what you said about, making the call valuable to someone else too, because I think, people in the online world, everybody, whether, they're an expert or they need expert services, I think everybody is so much smarter and more well-versed that they automatically look at all of these free calls as a sales call. Like instantly, that's automatically what they think. So if they use like what you're saying as they're going to be walking away with something specific,
yeah,
they're getting a value. And it's basically kind of like your lead magnet, your freebie that you're offering people, like they're going to be getting a quick win from this, regardless of what they do moving forward, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if you've gone from like working in corporate where you get an hourly rate or something like that, or a salary, they get so worked up about these free calls. And I think the thing to warn you about that is like the way that I see it is it's almost like we're like realtors or something like that, where we don't get paid unless we sell a house or we close the deal or whatever. But in order to get to that point, we have to take the client on showings. We have to meet with the client and, see if they choose us as their realtor and all the things. So if you're a coach or consultant or a service provider who does calls with clients and makes custom proposals or whatever, you are, even though you think, let's say you did 10 calls and you closed one client. Some people may say, oh my gosh, I did 10 calls. It took me forever and I only got one client. But if you actually take what your high ticket price is and divide it by those 10 calls, you were getting paid for those calls to get the one client. It's just part of the process. And it's just how it works. So I think you have to shift your mindset, stop coming from like this resentment or like, oh, I'm giving so much, to no, you actually are getting paid for those things. It does pay off, and it's just part of the business model that we're in. So that's important to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's just part of the work that you have to do, especially if you're selling a high ticket thing. Like you have to talk to people, like you have to make sure that they're right for your program, that they're going to like complete your program. Because the last thing you want is a bunch of people that sign up for it and don't complete it and, leave a bad review or something.
Right. And you said it yourself, like people are probably getting used to so many free call offers, so many offers in front of them. And I think that buyer hesitancy has gone up. And so we have to be better at communicating why us and why is this different? And, that kind of thing. So just make sure you're doing that.
Yeah, and that's exactly like the same thing with the lead magnets and stuff these days. Like it's a lot harder to get people to give you their email address because they're bombarded with, resources and freebies all across the planet these days, that a lot of people are not just using like a plain, a regular landing page anymore. It's almost like a full sales page to offer their freebie.
Yes, so true. People are donating their time for this free thing. So it's really not free. And so that's why we have to sell our freebies, because people's time is so scarce to them that they got to make sure they think it's worth their time to sign up for that email freebie.
Yes, and you also mentioned something that was really great that I love, and that was about like creating that freebie, whether it's a call or a lead magnet or whatever it is, that it speaks to the right person to call in. And that's kind of like, that application for your program, because people can create amazing lead magnets, but if they're aimed at the wrong person that's not right for their program, they're jumping on calls with people who are not in a position to either afford their program, or they're not even in the right niche. I mean, you just call in the wrong people and you're setting yourself up for failure. And then that's when you can really get burnout from all those discovery calls and stuff too.
Right. And I think when you're thinking about your freebie topic, don't do something that would pull in tire kickers, or like in the title. Like example would be, if you're so unmotivated and you need like affirmations to just get out of bed in the morning or something, like that's not going to attract the kind of people who are like, you know what, I'm going to sign up for a coach, or I'm going to, like healthy, super low budget meals. Okay, well, that's going to attract people who need a really low budget, right? So try to think about what would attract the kind of person that you want to attract, and speak to the top of your niche, meaning like, like if they're so depressed or so burnt out or so poor that your freebie tailors to the bottom of the bottom, well, okay, then that's probably not going to work. Now, you do want to speak to a problem that's big enough that they urgently want to solve it, but try to just think about your language around promoting the freebie, and make sure it's not speaking to like someone who's just so deep on the deep end that they wouldn't even be seeking help or support or that kind of thing.
Yeah. Or if they're in the beginning of, their problem that you need to solve, that you're offering a beginner level service or program and not a high ticket one, because you need to be calling in the right people who are in the right space at that time, which is hard. I think a lot of people miss that. So that's really important.
Definitely.
I want to talk a little bit about you and the services and the programs that you're currently running and what you offer right now.
Yeah. So I do a collection of different things. So couple things. One is I do private coaching. So if you're somebody who, is stuck in your business, or it's not as consistent as you'd like, or maybe it is consistent, but now you have to start bringing on some team or setting up some systems, things like that, I do private coaching proposals, or private coaching and consulting. I also do a program called the Inner Circle, which is kind of like the A to Z of establishing your online service-based or coaching business. So that's everything from creating your offer, your brand message, if you're going to have a website, what should be on there and the structure of that, how to put out your offer and launch, even if you have a small audience, and start building up your audience and your email list and all the things. So that kind of walks through that A to Z of like, let's get you clients, let's teach you sales and marketing principles, et cetera. And then I have my Work Smart Marketing Club, which is a monthly membership. And that's just taking you through nailing your offer, promoting it, similar things to the Inner Circle, but it's just more of a, if you're looking, you don't need as much hands-on support, things like that. And then I do also do LinkedIn lead gen, and that's a done for you service. And that's more focused on if you are trying to get partners or be on podcasts or connect with your ideal clients, if you work with a certain type of professional, or you do corporate wellness or something like that. We do, and I say we because it's myself and my team, we do a little relationship building campaign for you. We don't do sales pitches in the DMs or anything like that. If you've ever seen those messages on LinkedIn, that's not what we do. But optimize your profile, things like that, where we're helping you book more calls or get more interest from LinkedIn.
Wow, I love that. And I love how, it fits all together, but is still separate for people, in different parts of their business and stuff. That's amazing. Haley also has an amazing freebie to offer everybody, and we're going to be putting it in the links and everything. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about that?
Sure. So it is my free client attraction cheat sheet in class, and it's going to take you on a deeper level through those 4 steps of client attraction, as well as give you a cheat sheet that you can implement. Or I think I actually call it a playbook, but same thing, cheat sheet, playbook, whatever. But it basically helps you implement getting started with putting your message out there, how you're going to go about getting your next client or sale. So that is available at haleyrowe.com/client-attraction. And it's good for you if you don't want to keep just relying on like posting and thinking that that's going to be the thing that draws people to you all the time.
Just magically calls them all in, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, it can. I've had clients who that is their jam and, but it's not the only way.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't work the same for everyone all the time, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Haley, for having you explain everything and go through all of the business and client attraction steps. I think that it was, so eye-opening to be able to understand all of that. And I really think that it's going to help so many people listening to this episode today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you all next time. Thank you again, Haley, for joining us.
Thank you.